Hi, I'm Gaz. In April 2024, I moved into my forever home, and this gave me two brilliant blank canvases to work with. So let's take a look over the last 200 days at my gardening journey of 2024. So sit back, grab a cuppa, and hopefully you can learn some do's and don'ts at my expense. So I started my tropical journey with a single banana plant, my Musa, and this was it last year. It's quite stunning, right? And from that moment, as I unboxed it, I knew I was hooked into the tropical cold climate garden. So let's rewind back to the 17th of April 2024. So as the new garden season kicks off with my brand new garden, I could not wait to get these plants in the ground. A lot of these plants I've grown in pots over the last couple of years with being in a rented property, but I finally get the opportunity to put things in the ground. And it was only fitting that one of my first plants that goes into the ground was my big Musa, so my hardy banana. Quickly turning my attention to my cord lines. We've got two different types of cord lines. My green one's the Australis and my red one is the Red Star. Both relatively hardy, the green more so than the red. So this one is the one I'm most excited about and the one which I've given the most thought as to where it's going in the garden, and that is my Gunner Manicata. So I've had it in a pot for like 1 and a bit seasons now. It's put on quite a lot of size and I'm thinking about what's going to be around it and things, but I probably am doing it a bit cramped. However, I'm giving it a bit of space. So it turned out I didn't actually get a Manicata, a Gunner Manicata. As the season progressed, I quickly understood that I'd got a variety called a Tinctoria, which was a bit disappointing, to be honest, because when you buy something you kind of expect to receive what the label says. But however, we made the most of it and I'm still excited to have it. I knew I wanted some sort of barrier between my lawn and the borders, so I decided to go ahead and use these old decking boards which were just knocking around from the previous owners, so I've made use of these. It's not something I'll keep, but I kind of like the look of them. So May come round and wow, was it cold and was it windy. When I first moved into the property, I soon realised that I'd got nowhere to put my plants. And with frost still on the horizon, I needed somewhere to put them. So I made a decision to buy a polytunnel. With my plants secure from any light frost, it was time to turn my attention back to one of my main borders. After pulling back the weed membrane, I discovered that I'd got even better soil this end of the garden. So I went ahead and I planted some more of my favourites. I got a couple of Dixonian tree ferns that I actually bought for £5 reduced, which turned out absolutely amazingly in the summer. This bed consisted of another cordline Australis on the end, my yellow Formium, a small Chamaerops humilis palm, and of course, my Dixonia Antarctica. Mid-May and we finally get some decent sunshine. So good opportunity to plant out a few more of my plants, actually create a gourd archway here. And I wouldn't do this again, and the reason why I wouldn't do it again is it took up too much space within my garden, so I've created an archway to walk through, but it just didn't quite work. Now this is the opposite side of the garden, and I wanted to create a very similar bed to what I'd got over on the right hand side. This one I actually really struggled with all season, not only for sort of planting ideas, but I kind of put all my eggs in one basket when it comes to the right hand side bed. I planted my favourite plants in that. I knew that was going to dominate what I actually wanted it to do, and I kind of didn't have any plants left without spending some real money anyway. With that being said, I did actually plant a really great Trachycarpus fortunei and a Tetrapanax T-Rex, which I've actually got 3 more to go in the garden this year. Having a real big garden front and back is great, but I did start to understand the maintenance involved in keeping my hedges down, keeping the lawn nice and short. Now the garden was absolutely littered in elderweed, and I did manage to get on top of it. I didn't really film this too much as it's quite a repetitive, boring job, but I'm glad to say that I did get on top of it, and in 2025 I'll be able to reap the reward of the hard work I spent this year trying to sort it out. I was itching to get my big brugmansias out, but it was far too cold, so they had to stay in the polytunnel a little bit longer. And when the sunshine finally did come out, didn't the slugs? My goodness, 2024, what a difficult year that was for the slugs. The slugs and the snails ate everything in my garden, anything little. I lost probably 80-90% of my seeds. It was a tough time, right? So I spent 2024 season experimenting with different things. I tried Vaseline with salt, I tried sharp sand and sharp grit, I tried eggshells, but the winner that I'm definitely going to use in 2025 is beer traps. I found this to be absolutely brilliant for reducing my slug numbers. But it all wasn't doom and gloom. As we moved into late May, we really did feel some warmth and we could get some decent planting out. Little bit of sun, things really started to change in the garden. The time had finally come for me to get my large brugmansias out the polytunnel and spread them around in the borders, and this felt pretty good. So this month I managed to get some more of my tender plants out. I managed to plant out my ricinus, nasturtiums, more canna lilies, and I got some geraniums as well. But everything seemed to be a little bit behind due to the poor weather that we'd had. The one plant I will definitely grow again in 2025 is this Love Lies Bleeding. This purple flower just stole the show. I only had one actually survive the slugs after about sown of around 50. So I picked probably one of the warmest days of the year to start my new project. This was going to make space for my greenhouse that was going not in the corner but central to the garden, so I could make room and clear things up a little bit. So here for us, bin day on a Monday, so same day as before, but I haven't got a clue what time they come because with our house currently, we live in the countryside, which I absolutely love, but we don't get to see the bin men come down, so we don't know what time it is. So I said to my wife, what time do the bin men come? She's like, I haven't got a clue. Because obviously our front door is quite a little bit away from the house now. Oh, you know, I've got the back garden, which is tropical, which I'm absolutely loving doing. Everything's really small. But the front garden is going to be a cottage garden. I'll turn you around really quickly. All I've had a chance to do is cut the hedges, mow the lawn. I've given the lawn a bit of a weed treatment, and because it was just like a field, and it's coming really good actually. But they cut down a lot of trees and shrubs and things like that, and there's just root and rubble everywhere. So it's a case of not being able to plant anything in this garden, which is a shame. But I've got quite a lot to do anyway. I'll show you really quickly. This is going to be coming up on the channel for anyone who's interested. This is going to become a cottage garden, and the lawn, I'm really pleased with the lawn because it's doing fantastic considering what it looked like before. I'll put a little photo in now, and you'll see how such a long way it's come with it. And then this bit here, so I'm just going to make a pile for now with the brown bin still being full. Make a pile, pull it out of the way, and hopefully get the trampoline. So after making some room in the top left hand corner of the garden, I came across these 2x2 slabs that I thought would be perfect for my new greenhouse base. That tends to be my thing with this garden. If I'm not growing it from seed or cuttings myself or a small plant, I'm always looking for good ways to save some money, either reclaiming stuff for a project or maybe Facebook Marketplace when it comes to free pots. Anything like that, I'm all over. So I'd reduced, well, more than reduced a hedge of around about 8 feet in length. I took it right down to the ground and let it regrow, just so I could put a small hedgerow to one side of the greenhouse for when it does grow back. So I always knew the greenhouse was going to be here, but really sort of working on it on this day gave me a real good sense of where the garden was going to go. And I really spent the last of that month kind of enjoying the little bit of colour that I had got. Even though things were small and things were kind of behind, I really still had a really nice splash of colour everywhere. And to be fair, it is worth celebrating the small things. Although I went from nothing to this, I was really quite proud of it. Even though it's not a show garden to everybody else, but to me, it was quite a good accomplishment. Whilst I was enjoying the garden and admiring the hard work, and I thought, well, we've got over the slugs and all the early hiccups that I had with the seed sowing issues, then came the caterpillars. And wow, did they make a mess. Even as early as July, I didn't miss an opportunity to collect some of my seeds. So my nasturtiums, although they were being eaten alive by the white butterflies, they were still producing good flowers and a lot of seed pods to collect. And also my calendula, they were flowering the heads off, and obviously if you miss the odd one, then you end up with quite a special seed pod that you can save, dry out, and then sow the following year. August rolls round, and if I haven't got enough to do, I really want to get that greenhouse. So this is my wife's granddad's, and I wanted this for sentimental reasons. Of course, we could all go out and buy a greenhouse, but for me, this one is special. So I want this in my garden. So all in all, it probably taken me about 4 days to dismantle it, move it, and re-put it together. I didn't quite get there in the end this year due to ill health, but we'll come on to that a little bit later. But it was a beautiful day. I made the most of it, and another good job ticked off for 2024. The treasures you find, eh? I wonder how old that is. So one of the trees cut down in the front garden was actually a sumac tree, and this is kind of on my wish list for my tropical style garden. So what I wanted to do is I did a little bit of research on this tree. It turns out that it's an extremely bad runner, so I'll be keeping mine in pots. So I went ahead and I dug a few up, to be honest, and they actually transplanted really well. But as you can see in this clip, I didn't just want to share the good things with you in the garden, the border that was doing really well. I really wanted to give you a flavour for what gardening is all about and what my garden looked like, because you watch many different vloggers and you see beautiful gardens, beautiful flowers, and you kind of think, well, I can't really show mine because mine looks like crap compared to that. But, you know, I'm kind of here putting it on there to say everybody's garden looks like this sometimes, and everyone has a spot in their garden, and it's completely normal and completely natural. So don't beat yourself up just because we're measuring ourselves up to somebody else. So you'll all get there, and we all will get there together. I know that kind of sounds cliche, but I really kind of believe that things will come along at the right time and drop in place at the right time. You just got to be consistent, right? Keep doing it, and we'll all get there. As you saw in this last clip of me butchering one of my biggest brugmansias, now is the perfect time. So end of August, beginning of September is the perfect time for you to be taking your brugmansia cuttings. Now, of course, you're sacrificing the second flowers for actually creating some baby plants, but I think this is well worth it. All you simply do is take your cuttings 4 to 6 inches, drop them in water, and they can spend the whole winter sat in water, ready to be repotted in spring. No hormone rooting powder, no compost, no frills. Try the other way, dude. That's it. So September come round fast, and did we actually have a summer? I'm not so sure, but I start thinking about winter, start packing away some of the smaller plants that I've took from cuttings or made from seed, start thinking about where they're going to sit for the winter. And September is a perfect time to collect seeds off your canna lilies, so don't deadhead them, simply let them go to seed and cut the spike off. Now, I mentioned my Dicksonia Antarctica tree ferns, which I got for just £5 at the start of the video. But these are them now, and don't they look great? So last job of the afternoon is I'm going to go ahead and tie these up. So these are really done well. These are my gourds. I'm just going to send them in certain directions, just a little bit of tying up, and then that's it. October came around and I decided to ramp up my propagation station, if you like. So I took some Acuba japonica cuttings, which are actually doing really well now, and I reaped the rewards of my brugmansia cuttings in water. So these are absolutely fantastic. I think my collection is now 20, currently sat in a windowsill in the house, as the mother plants haven't done so well. But again, we'll come on to that in a little while. November was all about potting up my brugmansias that I had done a couple of months previous, and also dividing up my bananas. So I wanted to grow my collection. Again, this would be completely for free. So I wanted to multiply my collection of banana plants, and I successfully did that. As you can see here, the garden starting to look a little bit cold and a little bit tired. I've obviously got my two little mates to help me to brine it up that little bit more. Today I went ahead and dug up my largest ensete. That was purely because I'm conscious of time. The bed behind me, like I discussed, I'm going to leave out as long as possible. And so I'll put that little bit of footage in there. I lifted a couple of little bits as well. So I think I did my canna lily, my ensete, some small geraniums, and also my very small cutting, which is not so small anymore. Now looking back on this day, little did I know that my appendix was going to burst just 5 days later, which obviously put a big downer on pretty much everything really. But I mean, the gardening season was certainly over, but as I've just discussed, all my plants were still out and there's nothing really I could do. So I have lost quite a few, but you'll be happy to know all's not lost. We've not lost everything, and if nothing else, I've still got my fashion sense. If you made it to the end, then thank you very much for sticking around. If you did like it, please give it a like and drop a comment below. It helps share it out to other people who love gardening, just like us. What a great season it's been. Thank you very much to each and every one of you who has subscribed, liked and commented. I appreciate you all. Until next time, we'll see you in the garden.